I have another book review. Today we're talking about Navessa Allen's Lights Out. If you don't like dark romances, if you're not willing to read trigger warnings, this book is not for you. Scroll on and don't yuck anyone else's yum. Just a disclaimer, spoilers ahead. It took me like 4 hours to read this book. It's not that big. That's what she said. My face was red the entire time I was reading this book. So here's the synopsis. Essentially, there is this trauma nurse, Alyssa. She's a selfless, dedicated trauma nurse who works these long hours at the ER. And when she gets home, she decides to unwind by scrolling on her app of choice, something similar to Schmick Schmuck. And her For You page is very specific. I remember when this trend was happening and it was everywhere. Essentially, it's a whole bunch of thirst traps of men in masks. And so she, on her off time, when she gets off a long shift, will just scroll and interact with this person's content. If you know, you know. You've seen these thirst traps. I've seen these thirst traps. They were on my For You page forever. It took me a while to clear them out. The algorithm was algorithming. I don't play this game, but I know because of my thirst trap For You page error, we're gonna call it an error. If you know, there's this game called Call of Duty and there's a character called Ghost. So this is very much like the Ghost thirst traps. If you look it up on TikTok now, you'll find out what I'm talking about. If you didn't know, now you know, and I'm so sorry what it will do to your algorithm. So she interacts with this type of content, and specifically the masked man, this like anonymous thirst trapper who hits like, it's red lighting, it's like knife play. I did say that there was a whole bunch of trigger warnings on this book, didn't I? If I didn't, I'm gonna tell you now. There's a whole bunch of trigger warnings on this book. One of them is stalker content. This is the trigger warning list. It's long, okay? Knife play is on there. I don't know what this says about me. Don't yuck my yum. She takes a screenshot of the content and she sends it to her regular hookup, and he's like, no, I'm not into that. And then shows his friend. Well, guess who the thirst trapper is? If you guessed his friend, ding, 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 you got a winner. So they know each other. She is thirsting after her hookup's friend slash roommate. And he has met her. His friend doesn't know that he's the anonymous thirst trapper. Well, I think he does. In the book, it's not made clear that he does. But how do you not know that the background of your friend's room is in the thirst trap that she just sent you? I don't know. That's just my opinion. Anyway, so Tyler's the roommate that she was regularly hooking up with. And Josh is the thirst trapper. So Tyler shows Josh a screenshot of the thirst trap where he's in a mask to him. And he's like, oh, so Alyssa likes my content. They had met before. When Alyssa has stayed over after hooking up with Tyler, they have bumped into each other and he's always thought she was hot. So he goes into a spiral because he is a hacker. So he runs, like he clickety-clacks on the keyboard and goes through his mentions and comments, and he sees all of her comments and he's gassing himself up. She's commenting the most provocative things in the comment section. And so he's like, oh, okay. He's a hacker. He's very much a stalker. So again, trigger warning, if you don't like stalkerish content, it's not for you. Oh my God, he becomes obsessed with her. He was already kind of obsessed with her, but he becomes even more obsessed with her, especially knowing that she likes him, but she doesn't know that she likes him. On one of these days that she's on a long shift, he breaks into her house and leaves his iconic mask. So he leaves the mask on the bed and records the thirst trap in her room, but at such an angle where you only see bits and pieces of the background, not a lot of it. So while she's at work, he posts the thirst trap and she sees it. She doesn't notice initially that it was done in her room. She maybe sees like a detail, oh, like I have a dresser like that, or that's so funny, the corner of the video where you see a part of the bedspread, I have a bedspread like that. It didn't immediately sink in that that was her room. And why would she even think that? She didn't suspect that she would have her house broken into. That was funny. She gets home, she sees the mask, she goes back to the video, she watches it again, she goes, that's my room. And then she freaks the fuck out. And one thing that I like about this character is that she is not damsel in distress-y. Those types of books are really not my cup of tea. She immediately, upon seeing that her house was broken into, opens the drawer, pulls out a gun, and starts clearing out her house, making sure that there's nothing there. He left a hidden camera in her room. So she sees that her house is safe, goes back in and DMs him. She goes, hey, were you in my room? He has a camera, like I said, in the house. So she's saying these things out loud. Like, you know how people think out loud and starts replying out loud? And he replies to her to something she didn't message him, but that she did say out loud. So she's like, this motherfucker has a camera in this room. So she tears the house apart looking for this camera, finds it. He starts listening in through her computer, through the webcam. She disables the webcam but doesn't disable the audio, so he keeps replying to her speaking until she figures out how to disable the audio. Anyway, she goes on this mission to discover who this is. So she hits up her ex-hookup, Tyler, and says, hey, I know your roommate's a hacker. Do you think your roommate might be able to help me find somebody? Tyler's like, yeah, let me just hit him up. And so Tyler tells Josh. Josh is like, I'll help her. And he fakes helping her. One thing I didn't say is there is a moment where he, in a mask, goes pick her up from work because he's been watching her at work through cameras. And he saw that she had like a particularly hard day and was super tired and was not okay to drive. So he shows up at the hospital in the parking garage, breaks into her car in a mask. He has a gun and a knife on hand, not for him to do anything to her, but for him to drive her home, and she can have that as protection against him. So she obviously is like startled to see, one, someone in her car, two, see that they have a mask, but she essentially gets in the car and allows him to drive her home, and she's pointing the gun at him the entire time and has the knife in her hand. So if anything goes wrong, she could just attack him. I mean, like, this is so fucked up. You couldn't just call her an Uber. Anywho, so she can sort of see what his build is, and she does, like, in an interaction, accidentally cut his hand and, you know, stitch him up at her house with him in a mask. So by the time she actually does get over to Josh for him to help her figure out who it is, she sees him and she's like, oh, it's him. She already knows that Josh is the guy in the mask, but she doesn't have proof. And he has set up all of these, like, workarounds so that it doesn't seem like it's him. So for example, when she realized that it might have been him, she sent him a text message. While he was making her coffee and handing her a cup, he set up an auto reply for AI to auto reply to her to throw the scent off of him. He goes through the most trouble, but she's still convinced that it's him. And wouldn't you know, like, she comes to find out that it is actually him when some other things happen, some other bad things happen. She figures it out that it's him. This book was, again, the shortest read of my life. And now that this is a dark romance, there are some heavy themes in here, but their banter, it's like Grumpy Sunshine. He's sunshine, she's grumpy. She's very selfless and all of these things, but she's a tough girl. Like, she's gone through a lot. She's a tough girl. And he's also gone through a lot, but he's clingy. He's like golden retriever vibes to her black cat energy. Coincidentally, she does have a cat. It's so funny. Like, it's like a dark romantic comedy in my opinion. So if that is your vibe, you'll really enjoy this book. Honestly, I read it, a physical copy, and then I listened to it on Audible, not sponsored. The only reason why, because someone told me, and then I heard it for myself, that when he's in a mask, there is a voice modulator. And I'm like, what the hell does that sound like? So I used my Audible credit to listen to the book again. If this is your vibe, you will definitely enjoy it. It's not a long read. I thoroughly enjoyed this and am recommending it to everyone. Well, everyone who enjoys dark, spicy romances. Okay, bye.